Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. And be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. LSU and Mississippi State, their season openers and conference openers will be Saturday in Tiger Stadium, 2:30. Ed Orgeron and Mike Leach on Wednesday, as SEC coaches will throughout the season. We're on the SEC Coaches Teleconference previewing the matchup. First, Mike Leach. This was actually, can you play 5 from the media availability? Mike Leach gave his early thoughts on this LSU team. Give a listen to what the air raid, the Pirate, had to say about the Tigers.
You know, they got quality players and quality coaches, but what's tough about them is, there's going to be some change in, some of what they do scheme-wise on both sides of the ball. Maybe subtle changes, but there is going to be some change. And then the other thing is, just like I was asked earlier about our team, they have some new faces too. And I hope those new faces are worse than the guys that left, okay? And but intellectually, I know some of them will be better, but it's the same thing. So as far as just saying, this position, that position, the other position, that's tougher with them now than it is sometimes because they do have a number of new faces.
That's just a beautiful quote. They have a bunch of new faces. I hope they're not as good as the previous guys, but intellectually, I know some are going to be better. LSU has been better than Mississippi State way more often than not over the last quarter century, really throughout the history of this rival. But it's a different challenge. You heard Mike Leach talk about schematically how some things are going to be different. Similarly, for LSU and Ed Orgeron, they're looking at a very different Mississippi State squad, which under Joe Moorhead had really good, strong defenses, but never quite got the traction going offensively. Enter Mike Leach, the air raid, KJ Costello. Here was Coach O talking about the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Well, we're excited to play, and I look forward to Mississippi State coming to Tiger Stadium. A lot of respect for Coach Leach, a lot of respect for the players of Mississippi State. Very tough, and it's going to be a hard-nosed football game. The air raid's coming to town. New quarterback in KJ Costello. Great running back in Hill. Outstanding defensive players. Very impressed with their defensive coordinator coming in, only giving up 12.7 points a game at San Diego State, second in the country. So it's going to be a challenge, but our team is ready. We got a lot of new faces, a lot of new guys that are hungry to show what they got, and we have a very talented team. I can't wait to watch them play.
One of the new faces, of course, is Bo Pelini, that you heard both Ed Orgeron and Mike Leach refer to. LSU's got a new defense. We've spent so much time talking about how LSU is going to replace Joe Brady and Joe Burrow and all the talent, but LSU's implementing a new defense. And after Dave Aranda had been in place since 2016, LSU's going to still have a lot of big, fast, strong, physical guys, but how they play defense is going to look much different. Here was Ed Orgeron talking about Bo Pelini.
He has a lot, and Bo is very creative, but he's also a fundamental guy, and he's also an effort guy. So there's a lot of stuff that he can do. There's a lot of stuff, obviously, when you get into camp, you want to put in most of your defenses. But then he's got a Rolodex where he's going to call this stuff up according to the offense that we see. Now, with the air raid, he may use something that he doesn't use against maybe another offense. So I think that you're not going to see everything. I think that he's going to bring the stuff that he needs, and he does a great job of calling, making adjustments during the game. So I believe in what he's doing.
I am so interested to see how Mike Leach's offense functions from jump. Because you're talking about an offense, new coach, completely new scheme, new quarterback, new personnel. How, with a limited offseason, and remember, Costello's coming in from Stanford, and they're on the quarter system, so he didn't even get to campus until late summer. How is this thing going to function where it's such a timing, rhythm offense? Like, how are they going to function from jump? And something Mike Leach talked about today was about how there has been a sloppy start so far in college football. I'm curious if this might not bleed over into his team on Saturday.
I think that people focus on more specific ones a little more with less teams playing. in this day and age. And then, I come in and my wife's screaming at the television, so sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. To me, to be honest with you, more than anything, the sloppy play here and there just looks like first games type of deal, as you're trying to build a team, you improve as the season goes.
Ed Orgeron said something similar about improving as the season goes, but I'm glad Leach said it because I think we are so hyper aware because of COVID and how disrupted that the offseason's been that we look at upsets and just assume, well, COVID. But we see that every year, man. Like, we saw LSU lose to Troy a couple of years ago. We saw Mississippi State lose to South Alabama. We see these types of upsets every year. In 2016, we saw 5 FCS teams upset Power 5 teams. This just happens every year in college football, where G5 and FCS schools upset Power 5 teams. I mean, it's become part of our game as there's been more parity, as the group of 5 schools have recruited better and had more resources, and everybody's on TV, and you pay coaches more, and you have better facilities. If you're sleeping through a day, you can be upset, and that happens. So I'm not so keen on saying it's been sloppy early. Do you remember last year, the Week 0 game between Florida and Miami? Didn't Florida have like 9 sacks in that game? Am I remembering that correctly? I don't have the box score in front of me, but that was the turnovers, the sacks, it was hideous. They had a regular offseason. So I don't put as much stock in that as much as I do just teams getting better as the season goes along, which normally does happen. Now, something else Orgeron said is that he thinks they've actually had less injuries this year. And we know LSU tracks that as well as anybody with their injury tracking with Jack Marucci and all the technology that they use, fewer concussions, fewer soft tissue injuries. And maybe that's because they've had a longer ramp up to the season. In a normal year, LSU would be in week 4. They've just been still practicing and coming to this point. So maybe you're going to have healthier guys to start the season as well. As far as personnel, Orgeron did update, and this was interesting. This was sort of newsworthy. He did update. We know the starters on the offensive line. He did update the second offensive line.
Yeah, guys like Charles Turner has come around. Charles Turner has done a very, very good job for us. I believe in him. We've got some young guys, Marlon Martinez, Dumerville. Those guys are coming along. They're not ready yet, but I think that they're going to have to be put in the fire sometime or another. Cam Wire, who's another guy that has done very good, can play either tackle. So I think you're looking at Charles Turner and Cam Wire would be the first guys that go in, and James will rotate them around, and they can, Charles can play tackle or center, and Cam can play guard or tackle. I think those are the first 2 guys that would go in as substitution or an injury would go down.
When this offseason began, Ed Orgeron said Anthony Bradford might be, as he put it, our most talented offensive lineman. Do you remember that? Well, Ed Orgeron just mentioned 4 backups. Charles Turner, Cam Wire, Marlon Martinez, Marcus Dumerville. Get your 5 starters, those 4 backups. He did not mention Bradford or Cardell Thomas. So, at best, those are your 10th and 11th offensive linemen right now. Value of camp and guys improving, which should be seen as a good sign, by the way, that a guy like Charles Turner goes through camp, is really improved, and they think he's your backup center. You know the answer there now. If something happens with Liam, Charles Turner's the center. They also said Turner can play tackle, and Wire can play guard or tackle. So however they rotate it, those are your 7. Just like a year ago, how they would rotate guys like Badara Traore in there. Like, they had their backups that they'd rotate as they needed them, and now you know who those guys are. But it's curious to hear Ed call out Martinez and Dumerville, who I grant you are tackles, but their names ahead of Bradford and Cardell Thomas as well, who seem to have fallen down the depth chart. Also, really quickly, and Russ Mitchell in just a bit, we're also keeping an eye on some of these guys who have waited patiently for their turn and are now going to get it. Can you play 8, please, Moose? Here's Ed Orgeron on John Trey Kirkland.
Exactly. John Trey is like one of my sons, man. Really close. Great young man, great family, right there from Lutcher High School. Could do a lot of things for us and has had a good camp. But like you said, he's a great team guy. He's unselfish. He'll do whatever it takes for the football team. He's a winner.
And Racy Mcmahon, this is 7, he also talked about Racy Mcmahon, the senior wide receiver, now getting his shot.
We love Racy. Racy's a hard worker. It's his time. He's had an excellent camp. He's a great special teams player. I think he's one of the best special teams players in the SEC. But I want him to be one of the best receivers. And he is a tremendous young man, a tremendous leader. We look forward to him having a great season. I believe in him. Talked
about it a ton. Jamar Chase's absence, the biggest effect is not on LSU's number 1 receiver, but it's on the depth. When Chase was on the field, if he commanded a double team, that left Terrace Marshall in man coverage, and he's going to win that most times. Now, Marshall is that guy. And Marshall is a dominant number 1. I have no doubt about that. Can Racy win those matchups as your number 2? That's a big question for LSU. We'll start to get the answer this weekend. LSU, Mississippi State, Saturday, Death Valley. Get ready. It's here, y'all. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.